Have you ever heard about the shortest war in history? Do you think it was the Battle of Karansabuz, also known as the Hungarian-Serbian War, which lasted less than an hour? Well, you'd be wrong. Even though this conflict was indeed very short, it wasn't the shortest one. In fact, the fastest war in history lasted only 38 minutes, happening over 100 years before the Battle of Karansabuz. And while the reason behind this unusual battle is still unknown to most people, there are theories claiming it might have been the result of a miscommunication between two leaders who didn't speak the same language, or perhaps a simple case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But if you're wondering who started this crazy 38-minute war, what country was involved, and how it ended so quickly, keep watching. The early 18th century, the Kingdom of Sweden was ruled by King Charles XII, also known as the King of the Two Sicilies. He was famous for making controversial decisions like converting to Catholicism despite being the leader of a Protestant nation. But his most bizarre choice was marrying a woman named Anna Leonora of Austria, a member of the Spanish royal family. This marriage was part of a political alliance between Sweden and Spain, although it seemed strange considering their different religions. But then again, it wasn't the strangest union in history. Unfortunately, after only a few months, Anna Leonora died suddenly, leaving Charles XII without a queen. However, instead of investigating the cause of her death, he married his deceased wife's sister, Queen Elizabeth Charlotte of Spain, much to the dismay of the Spanish royal court. They felt that their family had been humiliated by the hasty and inappropriate marriage, not to mention the constant tension between Sweden and Spain due to religious differences, as tensions grew between the two countries. King Philip V of Spain decided he'd had enough and declared war on Sweden. His army consisted of around 4,000 soldiers, and the goal was simple: invade and conquer the Swedish port city of Malaga. The Swedish king had only one warship stationed there, along with a small garrison of 80 men, led by Lieutenant Colonel Nils von der Schulenburg. So on August 19, 1718, the Spanish Armada arrived at the port and began bombarding the city with cannons. From the Swedish perspective, they were completely overwhelmed. Their ship had been destroyed, and their chances of defending the port seemed slim to none. So Lieutenant Colonel Schulenburg did something totally unexpected. He lowered his flag to signal surrender and called off the battle, effectively ending the war. But why did he give up so easily? You might be thinking he simply wanted to protect the lives of his men and the citizens of Malaga. But the reality is, no one knows for sure. Some believe he surrendered because he didn't realize how outnumbered he was. Others claim he did know but chose to surrender anyway, because he believed it would save lives. But there are some pretty wild theories out there. For example, one historian suggested that the Spanish troops appeared so numerous from the shore that Schulenburg thought he was facing an entire fleet rather than just a single ship. Another theory claims that Schulenburg mistook the Spanish flags for those of the Holy Roman Empire and assumed he was under attack by the emperor himself. However, the most popular explanation is that the lieutenant colonel simply wanted to avoid bloodshed and believed giving up was the best way to achieve that. Regardless of the true reason, the war was officially over after just 38 minutes. And while many expected retaliation from the Spanish, it never came. After retaking Malaga, the Swedish and Spanish monarchs managed to negotiate peace between their countries, putting an end to any further conflicts. But what makes this story even more peculiar is that the actual duration of the war is disputed. Some sources say it lasted less than an hour, while others argue it was no longer than 38 minutes. Either way, it's safe to say that the Swedish victory at Malaga was one of the shortest wars in recorded history. And while it may seem hard to believe, there are other conflicts that were just as quick. In 1805, the Danish-Norwegian War saw the kingdoms of Denmark and Norway go to war over control of Norway's overseas territories. But unlike the war between Sweden and Spain, this conflict was much more intense. The Danish invasion force consisted of almost 200 ships and 20,000 soldiers, while the Norwegians had a navy of 80 vessels and 10,000 troops. Despite the significant difference in military power, the Norwegians managed to repel the Danish attacks and win the war in just 35 minutes. On May 8, 1805, the Danish fleet attempted to blockade the Norwegian island of Bornholm. But when the battle began, the Royal Norwegian Navy appeared on the horizon and destroyed most of the Danish vessels. By the time the smoke cleared, the Danish had lost 54 ships and 600 men, while the Norwegians had suffered minimal casualties. This victory allowed Norway to retain control of its overseas possessions and maintain its independence from Denmark. But compared to the Anglo-Zanzibar War, the Battle of Bornholm was quite long. In 1896, tensions between Britain and Zanzibar were high after the death of the pro-British Sultan Hamad bin Thuwaini. His successor, Khalid bin Barguj, wanted to rule independently, but was forced to sign a treaty giving British agents control of foreign affairs. When Khalid later tried to rule without consulting the British, they declared war and sent a fleet of warships to enforce their demands. The British bombarded the Sultan's palace and other government buildings, until it surrendered after only 38 minutes. It was the fastest war in recorded human history. There are many reasons for this short duration. First, the British had superior firepower, with modern warships equipped with rapid-fire guns. On the other hand, the Zanzibari navy consisted of wooden boats with outdated cannons. Additionally, the British had a numerical advantage with over 700 well-trained soldiers compared to the 500 Zanzibari defenders. Furthermore, the British ultimatum gave Khalid only 1 hour to accept their terms before military action was taken, leaving little time for preparation. Perhaps the most important factor was the disparity in military technology. British ships had machine guns that could fire over 600 rounds per minute, while the Zanzibari army relied on traditional weapons such as spears and swords. The British also used smokeless powder, giving their guns an advantage in accuracy and range. In contrast, the speed of the Anglo-Zanzibar War surprised even the British. They had expected it to last several days, if not weeks. As a result, many officers were caught off guard by the sudden end of hostilities and the need to occupy strategic positions quickly. The transition from battle to peace negotiations occurred within hours, leaving little time for reflection on the conflict. But beyond these logistical challenges, the Anglo-Zanzibar War raises questions about the nature of warfare itself. In a world where battles can be decided in seconds, it's essential to understand the factors that contribute to such swift outcomes. While military superiority played a significant role in this conflict, it's equally important to consider the impact of technology, strategy, and international relations. In the case of Anglo-Zanzibar, disparity in military capabilities was so vast that the outcome was essentially predetermined. Nevertheless, the speed with which the conflict was resolved highlights the importance of diplomacy and negotiation in international relations. After the war, Britain and Zanzibar established a new treaty that granted the British more control over the island's affairs. While this agreement was undoubtedly influenced by the overwhelming military force, it also reflects the willingness of both sides to seek a peaceful resolution to their differences. Despite the brevity of the Anglo-Zanzibar War, its implications were far-reaching. It marked the end of Zanzibar's independence and the beginning of a new era of British colonial rule. The conflict also served as a reminder of the changing nature of warfare, where technological advancements and military preparedness can play a decisive role. By studying the Anglo-Zanzibar War, you gain insight into the complex factors that shape international conflicts and the lasting impact they can have on the global balance of power. It's incredible to think that some wars can last only a few minutes, isn't it? These conflicts serve as reminders that, even in the face of overwhelming odds, quick decisions and strategic planning can sometimes lead to swift victories. While war is never an ideal outcome, understanding the factors that contribute to its swift resolution can provide valuable lessons for future conflicts. Now, I want to ask you, which of these 3 shortest wars was the most surprising to you? And do you think the lieutenant colonel really gave up because he thought he was under attack by the Holy Roman Emperor? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.